So yes, the Nigerian university system has ASUU, SSANU, NASU, NAT, and you heard the minister saying the other unions. So speaking of those other unions, we have a representative of one of them. I'm talking about SSANU. Mr. Abdul Salam joins us this morning. He's the National Vice President, Senior Staff Association of Nigerian Universities. Good morning. Thank you for joining us on the program.
Good morning.
First, you're not on strike, are you?
No, we are not.
Not yet or no?
We are not yet.
Oof. Okay, I mean, we'll come back to that. But I mean, seeing the trend, the negotiation between the federal government and ASUU, now the minister brings in your unions, talks about new or a salary payment system that you have also brought up. First of all, how do you react to the trends you have seen ASUU negotiating with the government, their demands, your demands also that will probably be coming up in a few weeks? What's your position on this?
Well, thank you very much. I think the major problem we have in the university system is first and foremost double standards on the part of government. And we find it very, very unfortunate that we have found ourselves in this kind of situation where for up to 9 months now, the university system has been closed. Forget about coronavirus, but even with or without coronavirus, we have found ourselves in a situation where about 9 months now, the university system has been closed. And for us, we believe that it's a function more of the irresponsibility of government and the inability of government to be able to do what it should do in terms of ensuring that there is good governance in the university system.
So you're saying that, I mean, because you have also had issues, you've brought issues to the table.
Yes.
So you're saying that this is none of the fault of the unions. This is at the bulk, at the table of the government.
Absolutely.
But, you know, following the negotiations between ASUU and the government, you'll have seen that the government has said, well, we have this certain amount of money. We have 20 billion. That's what we have. Okay, we don't have that 110 billion naira because, I mean, you can see COVID, you could see, you know, recession and what have you. So would you still say that government has not done or has not tried in this process?
Well, it's a two-way thing. And that's why for us as SSANU, we want to look at this issue more from the angle of accountability and not only from the angle of releasing of funds. Because as it were, there have been various funds that have been released into the university system. And what we have seen is that they have not been accounted for. So it's not enough. Our colleagues in ASUU keep talking about poor funding. Yes, we agree that there is a major challenge with the funding of the university system. But beyond the issue of funding, there's also the problem of accountability. These previous funds, as meager as they are, what has been done with them?
Accountability by whom?
Yes.
By the managements of the universities, vice chancellors, management, the registrars, the councils. You know, we have a situation where we want to insist that there must be injection of more funds. We agree that, yes, there should be injection of more funds. But even the meager that has been given, we find out that most of it has been frittered away. There has been a lot of wastages.
Can you give us certain specific examples, if you have any, about some of these issues of accountability that you're talking about?
Well, I think that is what has actually led us to even the issue of the IPPIS. I would not want to go into specifics to say this university, that university.
No, because, just the issues. Not necessarily the specific universities, but just the issues.
Let's look at it from the issue of the IPPIS. We keyed into the IPPIS, that's the integrated personnel, that's the controversial payment system now. We keyed into it not because we didn't have a choice to oppose it, but because we observed that there was a high level of personnel fraud in the university system. A situation where monies are being drawn for staff that do not exist by vice chancellors. A situation where promotion arrears and promotion payments are being made for promotions that did not take place. So we have a high level of personnel fraud in the university system, and that was actually why we keyed into the IPPIS because the concept of IPPIS itself was to checkmate fraud, personnel fraud, and also to checkmate corruption in the system. It's very, very rampant. And that's why for us, part of our advocacy in SSANU is that the government must do a lot more in terms of checking the university system, the issue of corruption. And one of those ways by which government can do that is the institution of visitation panels, which for us, for almost 10 years now, by law, visitation panels are supposed to be 5 years, every 5 years, to look into the accounts, to look into the books, to look into the issues of governance, and to look into the entire structure of the university system.
And something already clearly is being done about that, visitation panels.
We understand that.
But you know, just to a quick one on the same issue now. So what issue do you have with IPPIS if you know that it'll solve some problems? What then is the issue that SSANU has with it?
Thank you very much. Well, IPPIS was actually conceived about almost 8 years thereabouts ago. That was even by the previous administration before the Buhari administration. And when it was conceived, they invited us to key into it. But we told them that, yes, the concept is good. The idea behind it is laudable because of the inherent challenges that we have in the system. That's the corruption issue and the personnel fraud issue. But we said we have peculiarities in the university system in terms of our payment model and in terms of how there are some other specifics that are peculiar to the university system, which we demanded that they should be catered for.
Like what?
Once they are catered for, the issue of, for example, just very easily sabbatical leave, visiting staff and what have you. Those are some things that are peculiar to the university system that are not known to other environments, such that if you don't factor in these peculiarities into the payment system for the university system, you'll find out that it will create problems. So as at last year, the negotiations continued. And at that time, towards the middle of last year, around June, July last year, the federal government presented a demonstration of having complied with the requirements, with specifics to the university system. You know, so for us, we felt, okay, having satisfied that requirement, then there was no need for us holding back. So by November last year, which makes it about a year now, we urged our members to key in. But unfortunately, what we realized at the end of the day, I would say it's like being sold a dummy. Government sold us a dummy, because the demonstration they presented to us, which captured it and which was supposed to be what would have gone into implementation, was not what was now being implemented. Such that at the end of the day, by January, February, when IPPIS started paying salaries for our members, we discovered that there were a lot of challenges, shortfalls in salary payments, a situation where even up till now we have our members who are not on strike, who are working and who enrolled into IPPIS, and almost a year into the scheme, they have not been paid any salaries at all. We have situations where people have been paid multiple payments. I mean, you just open your account and you're finding 6 months salary.
And then you return it.
And then you are forced to return it.
Right.
So you're
forced to return it?
No, well, you have to just return it.
You have to return it.
You just have to return it.
With the benefit of hindsight, are you saying that you wished you had not enrolled into IPS?
Yeah, that's what it has ended up making us feel, that, oh, we wish we had not enrolled. We wish we had not enrolled.
So what's this new payment platform? Because we're hearing different things.
It is
UGPPPS?
Yes, University General Peculiar Personnel Payment System. So it's actually also in a bid to, because now what IPPIS has done is that it has thrown a challenge to us. And the challenge is, okay, why don't we give them what we believe would be able to work for our system?
How does your UGPPPS differ from ASUU's option of UTAS?
Well, we don't even know ASUU's option. It has never been presented to us. We don't know how it looks.
Have you had any meeting with ASUU to harmonize
They
interests?
have never invited us for a meeting.
Have you offered to have a meeting with
We
them?
are not supposed to be the ones to offer. They have something on ground. So if you have something on ground, you tell us, look, come, we have something on ground. Why don't you come and look at this? But what we have only been hearing of UTAS on the pages of newspapers and on channels TV. So it's not known to us. We don't know how UTAS operates. We don't know what it entails. We don't know what
on the
is behind it.
surface, Mr. Salam, many people would wonder, is there a conflict between the unions in the universities?
Well, I would not say there is conflict.
And
But
you would
again,
not say there is none?
And I'll not say there is none. The reason why is because I think the general principles of unions in terms of welfare of their members are the same. But a situation where you have 4 unions existing in an environment and each trying to protect its own territory, trying to protect its own turf, trying to protect its members, then there will ultimately be frictions here and there. And then maybe in terms of approach, for example, our own union is not given to a belligerent style. We will never go on strike for close to 3-4 months. We would never. Not because we do not have the capacity to, but because we also understand the challenges and the fact that going on strike, there are also ultimate casualties. When you go to war, it is not necessarily the soldiers that die. You have more of innocent civilians, people who are just caught up in the crossfire who die.
In this case, the students.
The students, exactly.
So you think ASUU is being belligerent?
Well, I would not want to say that on air.
No, you said that your kind of approach to this is not the belligerent approach.
Yes, we don't have that disposition. But unfortunately, one thing we observe about Nigeria is that the noisier you are, the more attention people give to you, even if what you are saying doesn't make sense, even if it's not in national interest. But once you are noisy, people want to pay attention to you. But as far as we are concerned, we believe that there's no friction. We are comrades, they are comrades. And even for us, I'll tell you something. I think one of the challenges, and that's throwing it back to ASUU now, is that we believe that in the university system, whether we like it or not, they play a central and very key role. I would even want to see them more as a big brother to the rest of the unions in the system. But it's now left to them to play that big brother role, which for us, we have found lacking. And that's why sometimes it looks like we are having conflicts amongst ourselves. Or ideally, there should be no conflicts.
So now that we have this situation on our hands, ASUU is taking a stand. If government accepts ASUU's UTAS and it doesn't address your own concerns, your own peculiarities, if I can use the word from your own suggestion, what will happen?
Well, thankfully, you have said it, if it does not address. But beyond even that, there's something that is very key. And that is the fact that we all have schedules in the university system. The mandate of ASUU, their members, is to teach, research. They are not into payroll. They are not into personnel. It is the registry and the bursary that are involved in that. And that is where our members are. So ultimately, there is no group in the university system that has the full knowledge and insight into personnel payments as much as SSANU and NASU, because that is where our members fall into. So at the end of the day, we are in the best stead to actually provide a solution to the challenges of IPPIS, not even ASUU.
So that's the UGPPPS?
Yes.
But you haven't answered my question.
Yes, okay.
What happens if government accepts ASUU's UTAS and it does not address your own concerns?
Definitely, if it does not address our concerns, then we will have to raise dust, we'll have to raise an eyebrow. It is natural. If it does not address our concerns, if our members' salaries are not being paid, If our salaries are having shortfalls, definitely we'll have to raise eyebrows.
Already from what you have said, some of your members, as you said, they're not getting their salaries on time. Some
Yes.
are getting 6 months. Some concerns are already being raised.
Yes.
If those concerns are not addressed, are you going to go on strike?
Well, it may get to that level. But of course, now we are still at the level of negotiations, we are at the level of dialogues, we are at the level of collective bargaining. We have had various, I think about 3-4 weeks ago, we had an MOU, which was facilitated by the Minister of Labour with the Office of the Accountant General of the Federation, with a view to assuring us that those concerns, we are not, mind you, we are not so rigid about even our own payment platform, in as much as our salaries and the salaries of our members were properly addressed.
So whether it's IPs, UTAS, you just need to be paid what you deserve.
What our members deserve.
Okay. Have you presented this to the government, the
Of course,
UGPPS?
yes, we have.
What has been the response?
Well, the response is they're also looking at it. They're also considering it. It's going to go for an integrity test. It's going to go for assessments to see if it meets up to the payments as it should be.
So basically, let me understand this. So you're waiting to see how this pans out with ASUU?
No. We are not waiting to see how it pans out.
So you're negotiating parallel, right?
Yes, of course.
But what do you have to say about people that say, employees don't have a right to tell the employer what mode of payments the employer should use in paying their salaries? I want to believe you've heard that line of argument. How do you respond to that?
Well, I think that line of argument is correct. And that's our own contention. We do not have a right. It's only in a situation now where it has now affected our payments, so to speak. We have tested it. We have found out that it has limitations. It has challenges. So against that background, we have a legitimate right to say, okay, employer, why don't you try this? But from the get-go, from the start, to just say, no, we are not accepting it, I don't think it is morally, and I do not think it is legally right. Of course, people talk about autonomy in the university system, because that's what it is used to hide under. You use the issue of university autonomy. But for us, as non-teaching staff unions, even the autonomy that is so much being touted, yes, we believe that there must be autonomy in the university system. But for us, we believe that the autonomy that is being practiced in Nigeria is an aberration. And that is why for us, if any group in the university system will hide under the issue of autonomy to say that this is what they want, then we do not accept it.
When did you develop UGPPS?
Well, it has been on for close to about 6-7 months now.
6-7 months?
Yes.
That's after ASUU developed IPs?
Not after ASUU developed. After we observed that we had shortcomings with our own salaries.
So you're saying that this is not in any way related to ASUU's negotiations?
It's not.
And what
It's
have you.
not.
Okay, so in the case, because I know that this was also in a public foray, so the government releases money for ASUU. And you know, the minister keeps saying there are other unions, right?
Yes.
And I want to believe you have your demands also,
of course,
in some sense. So if government says, okay, fine, ASUU, take this 15 billion naira for university revitalization, for the earned allowances and what have you, and then they say, well, we'll try to resolve your payment platform. Will it all be sorted?
No. Now, let me go back a little. We have this issue of earned allowances. And earned allowances is a product of our 2009 agreement with the federal government. ASUU has its own, NASU has its own, NAT has its own, SSANU has its own. They are not allowances that are automatic. It's not a general allowance. It is something that is earned based on your contributions, based on what you have done to the system. For example, you have hazard allowance, which is restricted to those people whose schedules of duty are hazardous, so to speak, within the environment. We have people who are supposed to have responsibility allowance based on the kind of nature of responsibility that they have within the system. So there are different allowances like that. And now what we discovered in 2014, after the 2009 agreement, the first tranche was paid. When it was paid 30 million. It was paid to individual governing councils of universities. Because by law, and that's why I was talking about the issue of autonomy and the fact that our autonomy in Nigeria here, especially by our sister union, is selective. They choose when to adopt it, they choose when to reject it. When it doesn't favor them, then they shout autonomy. When it favors them, then they now, and all of that. So in 2014, when the first tranche was paid, it was paid through the governing councils. And the registrars and the bursars of each individual university had an input because in the first place, by law, the council is the one who is the employer. That is under the autonomy law. The council is the employer. And the council knows who and who is deserving of what within the system. Who is the custodian of those records? The registrar and the bursar are the ones who are the custodians of the personnel and who knows who is eligible to the end allowance. Yes. Now, in 2017, a second tranche was paid. This time around, an aberration took place. And for us, it is very, very surreptitious because all of a sudden, from the office of the Honorable Minister of Education, the Director of Tertiary Institutions, just came up with a circular to say, okay, out of the 23 billion that was released, 89% of it should go to ASUU. Then 11% should go to the non-teaching unions in the system. And that was the cause of the problem. And that was why when you started, I was talking about double standards. Because at the end of the day, the first tranche, you paid it through the councils.
That's the 200 billion?
The 30 billion.
Okay.
Paid through the councils. The second tranche, which was 23 billion in 2017, was now paid from the office of the Honorable Minister of Education, paid from his office, which is an aberration, which is a contravention of the autonomy law. 2019, 25 billion naira again was paid through the office of the Honorable Minister of Education, which again was a contravention of the autonomy law and an aberration. So now we're talking of 30 billion. Our own argument is it must go through, because even now, as we speak, for the arrears of earned allowances, ASUU has been paid up to 2016. The non-teaching staff have been paid arrears of earned allowances up to 2012 because we have suffered shortfalls on account of these surreptitious payments from an unusual source, which is the Honorable Minister's office, and not from the councils of the various universities.
So clearly, it might seem as though we're getting to closure, but there are still a lot of issues to be resolved.
A lot of issues. We have issues of arrears of minimum wage. I mean, here we are talking about minimum wage. University staff have not been paid arrears of minimum wage. So even almost 2 years after it was passed into law.
I mean, there was a suggestion, I think it was last week or 2 weeks ago, that the unions should be merged. So you can come up with your demands as one and then resolve it once and for all. So we don't have ASUU having negotiations, SSANU, then we have NASU, then NAT.
Well, the issue of merger, let me say that they can't be merged. You can only negotiate with them jointly.
Why not?
They can't be merged because I think we have gotten past that level of merging. But when it comes to negotiation, our belief is that you cannot negotiate with one group separately, promise them something, negotiate with another group, promise them the opposite of what you have, and then you cause so much confusion in the system,
which can end up in a strike. But let me ask you this one on Twitter. Lastly, by Dr. Peter Imoesi, who says, if SSANU and NASU are involved in personnel and payment, by extension, they collaborate in personnel fraud with the Vice Chancellor.
Yes, we have not hidden the fact. But of course, you should also realize that their management, the registrar, the bursar, and the Vice Chancellor must definitely align together. So when we are talking about fraud now or personnel fraud in the system, we are not indicting any group.
So you are indicting yourself as well?
Not ourselves as a union, but some of our members are involved. And that's why for us, we believe that it's not about whose ox is God. It's not about this is my own thief or this is my own fraudster or it's one person's fraudster. The university system must be sanitized.
And I think that's a great place to anchor because this is about the university system, Nigeria's future, Nigeria's education system. And we do hope that all this works together for that good. By the way, there's this tweet about you, Francis, saying that you sounded like a jealous lover. I don't know what that means. I'd like to thank you so much.
Thank you so
Mr.
much.
Abdul Salam, the National Vice President of SSANU. Thank you for your thoughts on the program.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.